Welcome to Arizona Bill Watch, the show where you get satisfaction if you're not getting it from your state legislators. We report and comment on what happens at the state legislature and alert you on what is coming up next. And now, Arizona Bill Watch.
Hello everyone, welcome to Arizona Bill Watch for another lively discussion of important and controversial bills. I am your host, Jose Borajero. Thank you for watching. There is a lot going on at the Capitol these days, so stay tuned because we have a fantastic show for you today. But before we do that, some housekeeping items. Number one, we would love for you to watch the whole show from beginning to end. However, you may also fast forward to the bills of your choice by using the handy chart that we have placed down below. Secondly, if you like what you see, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. It means a lot to us. Third, it costs money to do what we do. So if you like what you see, you may contribute by going to our website, azpeopleslobbyist.com. So with all that out of the way, let's look at the first bill. And folks, welcome back. As usual, we like to start out the show with a little bit of talk about what's going on with the governor, because even though we stress the legislature, nothing can be done unless it gets past the governor. Either fortunately or unfortunately, maybe fortunately, there has been nothing happening at the governor's office because she has a tendency to veto everything that comes across her desk. But nothing more has been sent to the governor. Initially, there were 18 bills sent, 15 of which had to do with the budget. She vetoed every one of them. And in total, 18 bills have been sent to her. She signed 2 of them, both of which were kind of housekeeping type bills. One of them has to do with agreement with the federal government when it comes to income tax, and there's a bill like that every year. You have to reconcile the two so that you don't have the state pulling in one direction and the federal pulling in another direction. Those are considered, of course, housekeeping bills. You have to do them. And then there was another one that I don't remember, but it was just another housekeeping bill. The 2 others that she vetoed had to do with rent, a prohibition about having sales tax on rentals. That would have helped a lot the people in the lower echelon of the economy, because those are the ones that are usually paying rent in apartments and so on, and she vetoed that. She also vetoed a bill that would have prohibited the teaching of what is called CRT. In other words, teaching the students that one race is better than the other, or that people are guilty by association just because of the fact that they are of a particular race and so on. She vetoed that one also, indicating that she's in favor of teaching that sort of thing. In her veto letter, she stated that she wanted to give the local school boards the option to do this. So why would a governor want the school boards to have the option to do that? That should not be allowed in any way, shape, or form. So that is the report. We have nothing new to report. This is what's been happening. There was nothing new that happened this week. I don't anticipate a whole lot of bills going to the governor anytime soon, because we're still a little past the midpoint in the legislature. So it will probably be another 2 or 3 weeks before we have a big onslaught of bills going to the governor. House Bill HB 2305, short title, Ballots, Signature, Verification, Observers. This bill was introduced by Representative McGarr, and it will be heard in the Senate Elections Committee on Monday the 20th. Now, this is a good time to introduce this comment. It is a House bill, however, it's going to be heard in the Senate Elections Committee. So why is that? What business do they have listening to a House bill? Well, the reason is that about midpoint in the legislative session, we take all the bills that clear the House, and those bills are sent to the Senate to go through the same system again. And then once they get through that, then they'll go to the governor or whatever other disposition there is. And the same thing happens on the other side. Whatever cleared the Senate goes to the House, and we start the process all over again. So we are going to have a repetition of effort, because some of the bills that we talk about are bills that we already talked about when they were in the original chamber. Okay, and some of them have been modified, they have been amended. So we have, even though we may be looking at the same bill, we will have different provisions in the bill. So it would not necessarily be the exact same bill. So anyway, this House bill is going to be in the Senate Elections Committee on Monday, and basically what it does is that it calls for the observation by two parties and this will be the two major parties. In this case, will be Republican and Democrat, to observe and the signature verification when there is signature verification. I don't know why we need a bill for this. It should be kind of an automatic thing, but here we have it. So, you guys have any comments on that?
I have a couple.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, this is kind of a useless bill.
Okay.
I mean, the bill appears reasonable except for the terms of the bill itself. I mean, they really need to go in and they take a look at it. They make a provision in it for how the signatures are going to be compared, but there's nobody that's going to be in comparing those signatures that really have any expertise in comparing signatures, so they're not going to really know. I mean, it's just a guess, and it refers to the curing party that's curing the ballot. Okay, now is that curing party? Is it the voter, or is it the person sitting in the elector's office and is looking at the ballot? And is that person now all of a sudden casting his or her vote for the actual voter? Then of course you got another thing. How many parties are there that are registered? And we just had a new one that's read. They don't get to come in and take a look at any of this. They're excluded. And so is the Independent Party and the Black and Blue Party and the Green and Yellow Party. These are all precluded. It's only two parties that can do this.
Yeah, they say the two major parties.
And then the other thing is that they say, well, you can observe this from a distance.
Uh-huh.
How distant? A foot or a mile?
Are you allowed to bring binoculars?
I don't know. But I mean, this really needs to go back to the author and have him clean it up. I mean, it's a mess.
Yeah, well, that happens to be a relatively common thing with a lot of these bills.
I know.
So with that,
What is the consensus? You don't like it.
I think the concept is
It is-
good, but
right.
this bill, I would never vote for this bill if I were down there. Just no way. I'd say, yeah, hey, look, you got to make
Okay,
some.
in other words,
gotta be cleaning it up.
with you, it would be a no.
It would be a no.
and I'm going to say a no also,
Okay.
because I agree with all his points.
Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. So the consensus is that it would be a no. House Bill 2552, Voting Elections Tally Prohibition. This bill will be heard in the Senate Elections Committee on Monday, the 20th. This bill, if you just read the short title, Voting Elections Tally Prohibition, you would think that this is a relatively harmless bill. It doesn't do much of anything, right?
There's a lot.
Wait a second. Don't get ahead of me, guys.
Oh, okay.
But if you thought that, you would be totally wrong. Because there's a lot to this bill, especially the provision Basically, what this bill does is that it establishes the ranked choice voting, which is a terrible idea. This is where you actually rank instead of just voting for an individual, you rank the individuals according to your wishes and desires, and they are a tailor-made template for manipulating the results of the election. And we've seen it done in a couple of states now. So we need to stay as far away from this as it's possible. There is a mirror bill, in other words, another bill which has the exact same provisions, but it is in the Senate. And we don't know. I don't know at this point how that bill is faring. It's SB 1265. But if it does come up, of course, we will have the same opinion. This is the bill will be a yes because it prohibits the use of this ranked choice. So we definitely want to be, in my opinion, we definitely want to be in favor of this bill. As a matter of fact, that the way that it reads briefly is that for every election held in the state, the person who receives the highest number of legal votes shall be declared elected. So, as opposed to playing with the numbers to see who had the most good comments or whatever. So,
I'm curious about what you think.
You are?
Yes, I probably know, but yes.
Well, I think the idea of getting away from ranked voting is a very good idea, but there is one major provision. This is an amendment to Title 16, Section 605. And paragraph A under that is just a horrible provision. It says, every election held in this state, the person who receives the highest number of legal votes shall be declared elected. Do you realize that allows somebody to be elected without getting a majority of the votes?
Right.
You can have only 20% of the votes and still be elected. And that's not a good idea.
well, it's not a good idea. The question is, what is worse? The ideal situation would be to have, if nobody gets the majority, to have a runoff, and we do that in some elections. But to have a group of people sit over there and figure out mathematically who was the winner, it's not a good idea, and that's what this prohibits, that sort of thing.
Well, not according to my reading of 605 paragraph A. If you've got 10 people that are running for the same office, you got one person that gets 20% of the vote and everybody else only gets 19 or less, then the one that got 20% of the vote is elected. And that they still don't have a majority of the votes.
Archie, I agreed with you that is not a good way to do it. The question is, what is better? How do we get away from that in a rational manner?
Well,
and
remove that provision from the bill. Just remove that provision from the bill, and then you've got a good bill. But that provision of the bill is bad. Getting rid of ranked voting is a great idea, but having somebody who just gets 10 or 15% of the votes cast and have them declared to be elected is not, in my opinion, a good idea. You need to get at least 50% of the vote or more.
Yeah.
And there's this allows somebody with only 20% of the vote to be elected. That's not a good idea, in my opinion. That paragraph A needs to come out.
Okay. So
I agree with him on this, and
Okay.
that was kind of why I wanted to hear what he had to say first.
yeah, okay. So we have 2 no's and a yes. And the reason why I say yes is not that I like the idea of having somebody win with less than the majority. The reason I like it is because I don't see any other alternative other than going to runoff elections, and we have enough of a problem now with regular elections. So, in that sense, I'm yes. So 2 no's and 1 yes. HB 2591. Short title, Elections, Early Ballot, Drop Boxes. This bill would be in the Senate Elections Committee on Monday the 20th. It was introduced by Representative Griffin, And essentially what it does, according to the description here, it limits the location of drop boxes and stipulates that they must meet certain security standards. In other words, what we're trying to do here is to get away from the problem that we have, drop boxes that are unattended and subject to mischief. And this bill tries to do that. So I'm interested in knowing what you two guys think about this.
Okay, so since you probably will convey this better than I will, but my question on this is, okay, what's considered mischief? You have a camera, and maybe I just am misinterpreting all of this, but you have a camera to see that somebody is what if somebody's putting in 1,000 votes?
Well, there's a bill, there's legislation that's already been enacted which says that you can only carry 2 votes. You can only carry 2 ballots.
So what are they going to do when if they see somebody on a camera doing 10 votes? I mean, are they going to go after them? Are they going to try to find them? How are they going to know which person put 10 votes in?
Well, according to the bill, they're going to have a camera on the drop box.
That's
not going to tell you
and that's
anything.
my point.
Yeah,
that's not going to tell you anything. So, I just think this, as Archie would say, is a useless bill.
Okay.
The idea is good. They say that, look, these drop boxes has got to close at 5 o'clock. So, and it doesn't preclude having drop boxes that are not inside a federal or a state building. It expresses the intent that that's kind of what they would like, but it doesn't preclude just out here on the street corner, having a drop box on the street corner. So if that's the case, then are they going to have somebody from the county recorder's office or the election director's office in the particular county go around and to every one of these boxes and lock them up at 5 o'clock? This is just not working.
My objection goes a lot deeper than that, because I keep on asking the question, why do we need these drop boxes in the first place?
And that's exactly right.
Hey, I've expressed my opinion to you guys any number of times. We do not need paper ballots that you mail in. Go to your precinct and vote. If you don't like it, then just don't vote.
Okay.
That's your choice.
Okay, but since that's not going to happen, and we know it's not going to happen, there's no way that we're going to have 80% of the electorate be in favor of abolishing their precious mail-in ballots. Then the question here then is, since we are going to have early balloting and so on, why in the world do we have to have drop boxes? If you want to drop something, drop it in the mail.
That's right.
And if that's not good enough, then just bring it and go through the process of showing ID, etc. But this business of bringing an early ballot, what would you want an early ballot if you're not going to mail it in the first place?
Right.
This is just ridiculous. We should not have to have drop boxes, but we cannot look at this in a vacuum. We have to look at the situation, and the situation is that we are bound. We don't have a bill that says there shall be no drop boxes.
And that's what I find the most disappointing, because I know that our representatives know that that's one of the biggest things that a lot of people are talking about are the drop boxes. I mean, the whole election, obviously, but the drop boxes are one of the biggest issues, and nobody's talking about that. There's a bill like this. So, in other words, I'm against this bill.
No, I am in favor of it because it has it is at least a Band-Aid. It's not a good solution. The good solution would be to abolish these drop boxes in the first place. But you're not going to get 31 Republicans in the House and 16 Republicans in the Senate to agree to do this, and that is the problem.
And that's okay, but still, as I had said, and I think Archie agreed with me, so somebody comes in and there's a camera on a drop box and 15 ballots are put in.
Okay, you're addressing a different issue altogether, and that is when somebody violates a statute, what is the penalty?
That's right, and that is, there's nothing to address that.
And that is not something unique to this bill. This is something that needs to be addressed, and it really needs to be addressed. But this bill does not address that, but neither do 90% of the bills that we see.
Which is why I'm about this bill being a no, because maybe 90%, yes, they don't address, but maybe they need to start addressing those issues and putting those, because, with that, I'm a no.
Okay.
Well, this bill goes on and a provision, and it provides that anybody who unlawfully collected one of these write-in ballots and unlawfully delivered it to the ballot box, but they don't tell us what unlawfully is.
That's-
Oh, no, we know what unlawful is elsewhere. We know what it is. The question is, how in the world did you determine that if you just have somebody come in and drop the ballot in? Unlawful means that the only ballots that you can bring are members of your family and or members, people who you are caretaker for, who cannot visit the polls. Those are the only circumstances under which you're allowed to bring a ballot other than your own. The problem is enforcement. So and the drop boxes make it even more difficult to enforce.
So where are you at on this, Archie?
I'm like I was on the prior bill. Send it back to the author and let him
Okay.
correct it.
And
But we don't have that option. So it's
well,
either
I mean,
yes.
I think it's a step, as you say. I think it's a step in the right direction, but I mean, it's going to create more confusion than it's going to solve, in my opinion.
yes,
No, I think that it's a step in the right direction.
so as
So-
we see today, we don't have a whole lot of agreement. We're not as good as we were last week, but anyway.
Nobody pays any attention to me. Yeah, it's so you guys are both no, and
I'm
I'm a yes. I'm a lone ranger here, folks.
You really are today.
I'll have to get my mask.
It's usually the other way
I
around.
know.
Normally, I'm the sole one out here with a no, yeah.
Well, we take turns, folks. We take turns.
Oh, I guess Archie's rubbing off on me.
House Bill HCR 2033. Short title: Primary Elections, Eligible Candidates. And this bill is going to be heard in the Senate Elections Committee on Monday the 20th. It was introduced by Representative Smith, and it is a constitutional amendment. And at this point, it would probably be a good idea to mention something about these bills that have the three-letter type, like HCR or SCR. HCR stands for House Concurrent Resolution, and SCR stands for Senate Concurrent Resolution. And these bills fall into one of two categories. One category is one in which they're just expressing an opinion, and it has no teeth, it has no, and it's actually a waste of time. Okay, but the other type of HCR or SCR bill is the type where it entails either sending. Well, in either case, it entails sending the bill to the people for a vote. It bypasses the governor, but it can be either a constitutional amendment or it can be a statute.
Correct.
Okay, when it's a statute, generally it's a way for the legislature to kick the can, to pass on the buck. So this is where we don't want to deal with this. We'll put it on the ballot and let them decide. The other is that constitutionally we cannot change the Constitution. We cannot amend the Constitution by the legislature. It has to be by the voters. And that's exactly what happens with this bill. It is a constitutional amendment, and this is the way it does. State that the state legislature is supreme when it comes to the mode in which primary elections are conducted anywhere in Arizona. In other words, you cannot have Phoenix have a type of primary election and Tucson have a different type of primary election and Flagstaff have a different type. You want unanimity, I guess is
Uniformity.
the word. Uniformity. And so some people may not like the idea that that it's decided by the state legislature, but if not the legislature, who else? Who can represent the majority of the people, if not the legislature? Any comments, Archie?
Sure. I think it's
How come I'm not surprised?
I think it's a good bill so long as it's limited to general statewide elections. And that would normally be the case with primary elections. But if you're dealing with totally internal elections with any city or special organization, then I don't think it would apply.
Okay, so you're only halfway there because this states that the mode in which primary elections are conducted anywhere in Arizona. So it wouldn't entail primary elections done that are not
statewide. That's fine. Yeah, if it's statewide, it's fine.
How about you?
I'm for this. I think there should be
really?
uniformity, yeah.
Folks, we have
I know.
agreement. we have agreement on the bill where all three of us are in favor of it. Senate Bill SB 1167. Short title: Unemployment Insurance Benefit Amounts Definition. This bill will be heard in the House Commerce Committee on the 21st, which is Tuesday. Now, this is introduced by Senator Kaiser, and he modifies the schedule outlining the duration during a benefit year in which an eligible individual is entitled to awards of unemployment insurance benefits. Essentially, what it does is that it reduces unemployment benefits. And that is kind of the third rail of politics, or one of the third rails of politics, because this makes Senator Kaiser vulnerable to accusations that he does not care about the working people and is taking away the rights of individuals to have unemployment when through no fault of their own they find themselves unemployed, etc., etc., etc. So politically, this is a very incorrect bill. Okay, so my hat is off to Mr. Kaiser because he took this on because he's thinking in terms of what's best for everyone. And the one thing that you have to remember, everybody has to remember, is that nothing in this world is free. Okay, free unemployment benefits are not free. Somebody has to pay for them. And it's you and I that pay for them, okay? And we also know from experience and statistics that most people find employment right at the point where the unemployment benefits run out, okay? So some do not have a choice, but a lot of individuals would milk this to the very max before they find, as a matter of fact, a lot of times they'll find jobs that are paid cash under the table while collecting unemployment, which is illegal, but they still do it. So, in my opinion, it is a good thing to have, but it is totally politically incorrect, and it's going to hurt Mr. Kaiser when he goes for re-election. There's no question about it. So, my hand, as I said, is off to him because he took this on based on what he knows and what he thinks that is good for the state. So that's my opinion on it. How about you guys?
Archie?
Well, I mean, there's some of the terms that are used, in my opinion, are somewhat confusing, and I expressed that to Mr. Kaiser yesterday. The use of the term times, to me, connotes a multiplication. And that would mean that you're going to have some kind of a multiplication of the salary in order to determine how much is paid in unemployment insurance. But in truth and fact, that's not what it is. The times is reducing the amount of weeks that you can claim unemployment benefits. And it's to be limited to a period of time such as we have now, where there are just any number of businesses out there that are looking for employees, but people will not go and make an application. So the idea is to force people to take a job when jobs are plentiful and to get off of the unemployment insurance. And to that degree, I think it's good. Will it be effective? I don't know, but I think the concept is good.
And I agree. I don't really have an opinion on this. I'm going to say I agree with both of your comments on it.
Okay, so we have 100% agreement that this is a good bill for the state. It may be a bad bill for Mr. Kaiser when it comes to election time, but it's definitely a good bill for the state.
Yes.
Okay.
Senate Bill SB 1140. This bill did not start out doing what it does now. It is a bill that was a subject of a strike all amendment, so it has a whole new different language than it did originally. But the language now, or the short title now, is Elections, Voting Centers, Polling Places. And it would be heard in the House Municipal Oversight and Elections Committee on Wednesday, I believe, the 22nd. This bill essentially has three major provisions in it. Number one, it states that a school, if they have a gym, a gymnasium, which generally means that they have space, okay, that they have to allow the use of that school as a polling place. Secondly, it removes the ability of a school principal to deny a request to use the school as a polling place. And third, it requires public schools to close, in other words, have a class or school holiday on election day. So, starting with a third provision, I'm sure a lot of kids will welcome that quite a bit. But let's face it, we have a general election every 2 years, so 1 day of school every 2 years is not a whole lot. So people who object to that really don't have a standing. What this bill does, in my opinion, is that ensures that there will be enough spaces to conduct the election and remove the objection that some people have that we have to have voting centers here or there because we don't have enough space within the
Precinct.
the precinct. So I think it's a very good idea.
I agree. Didn't this bill, the original, want a whole bunch of money from the general fund to fund?
Right.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. This is totally different,
Yeah.
and we were not very happy with that.
Right.
But we are well. I don't know about Archie, but at least Gloria and I are happy with this bill the way it is now.
Well, I'm not in favor of anything that's going to declare a holiday for schools, for students and public schools or charter schools or anything else that's going to give them the day off for election. I'm not, look, we got a hard enough time right now teaching our kids. And there's just too many of them that are not performing at grade level, and now you're going to give them.
Yeah, but that's not the result of having too many holidays.
Well,
that is something totally different now.
I understand.
Well, and also, and my answer to that is, which I guess maybe should be in the bill, is they should just add on an additional day at the end of the school year.
Well, I'm sure they do because they have to have so many days. So
Right. So if that's what the case is, then
this happens all the time. It happens all the time in states where there's snow in the wintertime.
right.
They
have
close
snow
the
days.
school sometimes for 2 or 3 days because of the school, because of the snow, and then they have to, at the end of the school year, they have to add those so that they have enough
Right.
if not enough days. That's not an issue.
I'm just glad they took that money out of it. Are you a yes or a no on this?
Well, I'm a yes on part of it, but a no on part of it.
You don't have that choice.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
choice.
You have to either yes or no.
Okay, well, I'll be a no and send it back and let them correct it.
Okay.
We don't need a holiday for high school students.
So what would the conduct, and I'm not opposed to it, conduct school but still leave the gym open or whatever facility there is?
I've been to any number of schools in my entire life of voting at the precinct in which the voting is at schools and they're having classes at school.
I agree
Well,
with that.
you have to look at it from the political point of view. An objection. See, we're removing objections to a lot of these principles really don't don't want to do what they're supposed to do, and they find objections. And what this bill does is it removes all the objections. One of the objections is that by having a school be a balloting place, an election place, that it disrupts the workings of the school. Therefore, we cannot have it. Well, this removes that as well. So all we're doing here is removing the objections that they have to having schools open for voting. And in light of that, I'm perfectly okay with the school holiday.
Me too.
So 2-1. Well, folks, you're probably very much aware that the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution guarantees freedom of speech. However, they stopped short. They did not give us free speech. To do what we do costs money. So that's why we have to have commercials. But stay tuned, because there's a lot more coming after this short break.
Impact!
Senate Bill SB 1144, short title, Electronic Ballot Adjudication Prohibition. This bill would be discussed and voted on in the House Municipal Oversight and Elections Committee on Wednesday, the 22nd of March. It was introduced by Senator Hoffman, and essentially what it does, according to the description of it, is that it prohibits the use of an electronic voting adjudication system and requires for damaged or defective ballots that cannot be properly counted by the automatic tabulating equipment a duplicate copy of the ballot to be made by hand.
Okay, I'm not for this.
Yeah. I think that to have people look at the ballot and guess as to what the voter decided to do, it's not a good idea.
Right, I'm totally against this.
So Archie, what do you think of that?
Well, I think this is another illustration of people trying to clean up our voting process without giving it due thought.
Exactly.
If they're going to try to do something, then they, in my opinion, they really need to establish a committee to really look into the issue and try to figure out how to correct it and correct it in an appropriate manner. This bill doesn't do it. I'm against this bill.
Yes, and that's what I was thinking, looking at these bills. That was what I thought. Somebody just needs to sit down and they need to hash all this out and just have a clean bill. Or this is just, yeah, I'm against this.
Okay, so I guess I am neutral on this. Again, it's one of those bills that really doesn't do much, but in my opinion doesn't do much harm either. So anyway, so we have 2 against, and okay, the consensus is we don't like this bill.
Yeah. Okay. Glad we convinced you that.
Let's be done with it. What the hell? Senate Bill SB 1170. The new title, this is a bill that was the subject of a strike everything amendment. So the original text was totally wiped out and replaced with new text, which is now ballot drop boxes, requirements, appropriation. This bill will be heard in the House Municipal Oversight and Elections Committee on Wednesday, the 22nd. It was introduced by Senator Hoffman, and it starts out by, well, that famous phrase, notwithstanding any other law. Anytime I see something that says notwithstanding any other law, I pay particular attention, okay, because,
Because it's notwithstanding any other law, right?
yeah, it would eliminate a lot of objections, anyway, notwithstanding any other law, a county recorder or other officer in charge of elections may not use an unmonitored drop box for receipt of voted ballots. And there's some exceptions. Now remember when we discussed, and you folks at home, unless you're watching the whole show, you wouldn't necessarily know this, but we did discuss drop boxes in another bill that attempted to clean up what happens with the drop boxes. Here we do the same thing in a different way. It says we may not use an unmonitored drop box. But again, it does not solve the problem, and the problem is that these things, even though they may be monitored, you have no way of enforcing the law that prohibits people from bringing ballots that they're not entitled to bring.
That's right.
So, but again, it's one of those things that may be a good step in the right direction, but I don't know. Archie, what, or Gloria,
I'm not for this again.
Yeah.
But like I said, because there's no consequences and no provision or anything about who's dropping them off and if they're legal or whatever.
Right. Well, I mean, if I carry your ballot into a precinct and drop it off there, I've got to provide all kinds of
Right.
identification. I mean, I've got to give you, my oldest child and $1,000 in order to be able to drop off your ballot.
Right.
Here, I just walk up and drop it in the box. I don't have to provide anybody with anything. You talk about allowing fraud. That's a prime example of it. This is a bad bill.
Yes.
Well, again, we have to look at it in context. It's not the bill that's bad, it's the fact that we still allow any kind of drop box. So the bill that I think all three of us want to see is a bill that says no drop boxes at all.
Exactly.
But we don't have that option. We're discussing what is, not what should be. And discussing what is, I have to be in favor of this bill.
And I'm against.
I'm against.
Okay, so it's 2-1. Senate Bill SB 1175, short title, Registrations, Observers, Counting Procedures, Verification. This bill was introduced by Senator Kavanaugh, and it will be heard in the House Municipal Oversight and Elections Committee on Wednesday, the 22nd. This bill, I'm not so sure that I understand it. Reading it, I did not come with a comfortable feeling, so I am going to be asking you guys what you think of it.
I'll be happy to tell you.
Well, I'm sure you'll be happy to tell me. That's why you're here to tell me. So, yes. By all means, tell me, Archie, what do you think about this bill?
Well, this is a 20-page bill that amends 9 separate code sections.
Yeah.
Mostly it's just technical corrections. It does, however, contain provisions that are in conflict with each other within this particular bill. So those conflicts, it would seem to me, like they need to be corrected. Then it makes a provision for having observers and counting ballots, and the county chairman of any particular political party can nominate the observers to be with the election coordinator and observing these ballots. But where I have a problem with it, a chairman of chairman of the Democrat Party from Maricopa County can appoint Republicans, and the Republican appoint Democrats, and then it goes on to make a provision that, you've got to have 75 people in order to be able to do this. But if they don't have 75, if you don't have 75 people, then we'll just go ahead and do it anyway. So, there's a lot of conflicts in this bill, and they need to be corrected.
So the consensus there, or at least from your point of view, is that it's not a good bill.
I think the concept is good, but I think the wording in the bill needs to be cleaned up.
And if we're looking at 11, some of the other things I thought about is, for me, I thought elections were, you have to have a certain amount of privacy. And to me, if I'm reading this bill correctly, there's things in here that I think are eliminating the privacy. And I think it's opening up too much public viewing and people being allowed to request all this information. I'm not for this bill.
Okay, so we have a situation again where both of you are substantially against the bill.
For different reasons, or maybe the same reasons.
I am substantially in the middle, so that makes the result a net no for this bill. Okay, folks, it's time to pay some bills. And to that end, we have a short commercial interruption, but stay tuned because we still have lots more to discuss.
Impact.
SB 1471. Short title, Ballot Tabulation Hand Count Comparison. This bill will be heard in the House Municipal Oversight and Elections Committee on Wednesday the 22nd. It was introduced by Senator Kavanaugh, and it requires that a sample of the 2022 general election ballots be counted both by tabulator and by hand. And the results are to be compared for accuracy and man-hours required. This bill, I don't know that I have a whole lot of agreement with me on this bill, but I think that this is an extremely important bill. And the reason why I say that is that we keep on having this discussion about, on the one hand, we say hand count cannot happen because it's too slow and it costs too much money. On the other hand, we have people that say, no, it's not any different. It's just as easy, it's just as fast, and it's just as inexpensive. And so we have this controversy going on without really having a reason, a good reason to know or to determine one way or the other. In my opinion, if we do this in the proper manner, the way which is described in this bill, at the end of the day, we will know exactly if hand count is the same in terms of man-hours required, in terms of cost, in terms of accuracy, okay? If they match exactly or very close to exactly what the machine count would be, then there would be no reason we can make a decision. Okay. However, on the other hand, if it turns out that the hand count is more expensive, more slow, and so then those folks that say that claim that would have a point. But right now, it's all conjecture. You know, we think we know the answer, but we don't. This bill would give us the answer, and then we can use that answer whichever way we want.
Well, I view this bill as one as verifying the validity and the accuracy of the count of the electronic tabulating machines. And under this bill, the election officer will select 4 precincts and then select 100 ballots from each precinct, and those ballots then will be hand counted. So, I mean, I'm not sure. You've got 400 total ballots to hand count. I'm not sure where 16 hours a day comes into this. It shouldn't take, a committee 16 hours to count 400 ballots, it wouldn't seem to me. But if it does, so be it.
Well,
the thing that hit my interest is this is a bill that self-expires on February 29th next year. What's the purpose of it? If it's going to self-expire next year, it doesn't become a matter of statute so that it's ongoing.
Right, no, I understand. But we have to look at the purpose. What is the purpose of the bill? The purpose of the bill is that we have a handle as to how the hand count differs from the machine count. Once we have that, what's the purpose of having the bill?
What election do you have to hand count between now and February 29th?
No. It tells you the result, right? It will be the result of the 2022 general election. Mm-hmm. This bill does not address whether we should have hand counts or not. This bill addresses the issue as to which one is more costly, which one is more accurate, if any. That's what the bill does. And once it does that, then you don't need to have it any further.
Right. I would like to see more, but I'm good with this bill.
Yeah, I'm very much in favor of this bill.
Archie? No, I'm not necessarily in favor of it. Well, if it didn't self-expire, then I would say yes. But it self-expires.
But
how many times do you want to count the 2022 election?
You're going to verify the accuracy of the automatic tabulating machines.
Right.
And
once you've done that,
2022 is already past us. What about 2024? Don't you want to know that the voting machines are accurate in 2024 So why wouldn't you?
I see that point also.
Why wouldn't you want to know that your future election, that those machines are counting accurately in the future as opposed to counted accurately in the past? I'm more concerned about future elections than I am past elections, and with this bill having a self-expiring section,
well,
this does nothing.
This would settle the question as to which one is more effective, more accurate.
It's not going to change the outcome of any election in the past. They're not. All of a sudden, we're not going to find a new governor or a new senator.
No,
and that's not. And that's
a new president.
That's not the point of the bill.
It's exactly the point of it.
No, that's not the point.
No, the point is just to see which is more efficient. Or are they the same?
The purpose, as I see it, is to settle the question or settle the debate as to which one is more effective,
right?
Which one works better, which one is more accurate, and you don't know that until you have a true comparison of the two. And with that, I stick to my opinion that it's a good bill.
I stick with my opinion that it's determined whether or not your voting tabulators are accurate or not. And the fact that they were or were not accurate until 2022 has no bearing on 2024.
Okay, so we'll disagree on that.
Yep.
2-1.
Okay.
Senate Bill SB 1595. Short title, Early Ballots Identification, tabulation. This bill is going to be heard in the House Municipal Oversight and Elections Committee on Wednesday, the 22nd. Introduced by Senator Mesnard, and it makes several changes in the way early ballots are delivered. But the most significant change that this makes is that it's the requirement that you present ID in order to bring this ballot. This is really a no-brainer. You need to have ID for just about everything in this world. To cash a check, you need ID. Even to borrow a library book, you need ID. Why should you not have to present ID, a proper ID, to do something as important as cast the ballot or bring somebody else's ballot in?
So
It should be a no-brainer. This is a definite yes.
yes, it's a yes, but it still goes to the other bills that we talked about with the ballots. But
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
I'm
the
in agreement
enforcement,
with ID.
the enforcement is always going to be a
Right.
problem. If there's no provisions for enforcement, the bill has no teeth. And we've been, ever since I've been involved in looking at legislative bills, this has been an issue. That how come we have a bill that says A, B, C, and D, but that it doesn't tell you what the penalty is if you don't do A, B, C, or D. And this bill apparently suffers from that malady as well, but that's not what we're discussing here. What we're discussing here is whether it's a good measure or not.
It's a lawsuit in waiting.
Say then?
It's a lawsuit in waiting because of the conflict of the times. If you look at paragraph 1, says, in order to be counted and valid, the ballot must be received by the county recorder or other officer in charge of elections not later than 7 p.m. on election day. Paragraph 2 says it must be received by Friday preceding election day in order to be counted. So which is it? On election day or the Friday before election day?
Right.
All right? I mean, that's just a lawsuit in waiting. So it needs to go back to the author and they need to clean it up.
I would still vote a yes on it.
I'm in the middle here on this one because I see both.
I mean, it's totally an adequate bill.
So no, yes, and in the middle.
In the
So we have a
middle,
tie
yeah.
here. This brings to an end this week's edition of Arizona Bill Watch. Thank you for watching. If you like what you saw, please make sure you tell your friends, relatives, and anyone else you know. And make sure you tune in next week for another fantastic edition of Arizona Bill Watch.
Arizona Bill Watch, the show where you get satisfaction if you're not getting it from your state legislators.